Good morning, Miss Nusrat Jafri, and welcome to Creative Adda. I just I just got so much into it, I couldn't stop, reading. It was
All
like
right.
2 a.m. or 3 a.m., and I was like, no, I have to read more, I have to know more because there were so many topics discussed in this one single book, whether it is feminism, whether it is women empowerment, whether it is Christianity, and whether it is conversion. Like, there was such a mixture of, what equality is, what we want to do for our rights, what we have to do for our own life. We should not always depend on others. And the book had so many good things that I was like, no, I have to complete it. Like, I really wanted to know what the next chapter will hold. So it was really interesting, and I must commend you, Miss Jaffrey, for writing this and crafting this wonderful piece. So, this is your debut novel, This Land We Call Home. So, how did you come up to the decision to write a book about your ancestors, especially about Hardyal Singh, who is your great grandfather, and Kalyani, and who is his wife, and how long have you been considering this project? Like, it has such deep information about them and everything about your ancestors and everything. So, how did you come up with all this idea?
Um, I'd wanted to write this story for many years. So it's a part of our history on which there's not much material available. So if you want to
Yes.
read about the tribe or Dhatu tribes, there's just a very, I mean, in recent years, you'll find a Wikipedia page, but with not enough information about them. And whatever I had heard was from my grandmother and my own mother. But these are very small anecdotes and stories and not much about the Bhatu community. And I was always interested in knowing the journey of the family from, I mean, both my sides, both my maternal and paternal uh, family sides have had histories of either migration from different places, different countries, or as with my maternal side within religions as well. So it was always interesting because you mostly interact with people who are from endogamous families, like they've all had the same parentage. But
Yes.
from my childhood, I've always been aware of my family being different in terms of exposure to more cultures than just one. So for me, since I was aware of that, I wanted to dig deep into both my maternal and paternal sides. My paternal sides have roots in Persia, in Iraq, and Iran. And while that was more fascinating, but there's material available on the journey of that, how that could have happened. There was very little written record on how who the Bhatu community was and how and why conversions to different religions may have happened when they did early on. And also the current scenario of uh, so much negativity attached to the word conversion. So when you hear the word conversion in news, it's because somebody is accused, somebody of falsely or coercively converting a certain community, a certain people into their, accepting them into their religious fold. So, I mean, I have lineage where people have converted from one religion to another. And I was always interested to know how did this word become so heavily loaded with so much negative connotations, like, and also the attacks on minorities, minority communities. The particular incident that really affected me was when I was 18 or 19, the murder of Graham Staines and his two minor sons. And I remember I was that year about to either take my, yeah, I think I was interning with a news organization in Delhi, and I felt really, I don't know, it was such a big, gruesome murder just because somebody thought that this person who works with patients of leprosies and happens to be a missionary was also forcibly converting tribals to Christianity.
Okay.
And yes, so that also kind of led me to, it kind of made me realize that I wanted to write about my ancestral history and dig deep into this and understand how over the years the word conversion has become so negative in India.
But like, so it have been really difficult for you. As I have read the book, it clearly shows how Christianity gave a new hope of birth to so many tribal people. So, like, what are your personal thoughts on this aspect?
My family clearly benefited
Yes.
and
I
quoted a
have
law.
got an idea from your book. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, even for me, the word conversion has always been like, no, it's negative, something negative. But this book showed me the reality.
Yes, I mean, ideally, if you don't want tribal, ideally, in an ideal world, people should not have to leave their customs and uh, and kind of mingle into what is an accepted uh, way of living or gentrification, as they say. You are going to be changed by
Yeah.
accepted Western education. Ideally, it would be nice if you have a tribal area and you have a government school right there that functions. And that helps the tribal people or the community to retain their habits, their customs and rituals instead of, like having to learn English or learn how to, like leave their own personal habits and just mingle with the rest of the world. That would be ideal, right? That you're getting education where you are instead of being uprooted and put into boarding schools. But that's not happening. No one is doing that successfully, at least. So
Yeah.
in that position, and and society doesn't let you mingle. Like we still have places in India where uh, if you have a cook from a lower caste community cooking for a school in government schools, the students have refused to eat it because they are like, oh, she's a lower caste, so we are not going to eat the food made by her. These are children revolting against that. So likewise, there are students in Indian villages and Indian cities where, not so much in cities, where lower caste students can't even sit in the same row or on the same chair bench as upper caste students. So since this discrimination is there, if some community finds acceptance in another religion and they feel it will benefit them for more acceptance in society as well, I don't see the harm in converting. But like I said, ideal world, if you can bring development to them and be accepting and include them in the system, that is the best, right?
Yeah. I totally agree with you on this point. Like the children, even the children who are like very small, they are being taught that this is lower caste and this is upper caste, which is like wrong on so many levels. But the book you wrote and the deep history you wrote about the Bhatus tribe showed their, what we can say is their sacrifices and their journey through life and how they converted them and then they find a new life and all. So, like, take me back to your childhood. Reflecting on your upbringing, do you believe that your ancestors' experiences and values have influenced your mother's approach to raising you?
Yes, definitely. I mean, my as you have read in the book, I mean, my grandmother was a very, very strong woman,
Yeah.
and my mom had the influence of her aunts who were strong and they were feminists and they were working in an India which was just newly formed. They were studying when women's education was not even an issue. Like people were not studying, they were not enrolling their daughters into schools. It was just like boys are going to study and do things. So here was this family which migrated from Rajasthan and started a totally different life, totally different religion. sent the kids to schools, in boarding schools, which is also, they also separated their children from them for, in the hope that something good would happen with their lives. And as they did it, they made their lives. So my mother had the experience of like watching these incredibly strong women who were our aunts, and so definitely the influence was there. And my grandmother Prudence was also equally strong. I mean, no matter what adversity struck in her life, she stood by her children. She made them study. So, I mean, I grew up with a mother who was strong as well. And again, like my grandmother, my nanny also had a great influence on us because we were living close by. And so I would meet her, see her. Then my grand aunt, my grandmother's sister Dorothy, she came in and lived with my uncle at some point. So we had access to her stories, her experiences, which even included her experiences in the World War.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been lucky to be surrounded by so many strong women.
Yeah, that's great. It really shows like how confident you are, and that's because you have a rich heritage of confidence in you. So, like the book portrays your great grandparents and their children as well educated, suggesting a strong literary heritage. So, like, can you elaborate on how this influenced your own love for books and writing?
Yes. So my father was a physics lecturer, and he also paid a lot of emphasis on education. And we had a very uh, we had a very academic oriented uh, goal in our life. Like my father was like, you have to study first, more than anything else, more than being acquainted with religion. You have to first be educated and know your subjects really well. And of course, my mother was also very into us being educated well. But so when you grow up with a father who's a teacher yourself, who's a lecturer, and who's training students for higher educations, we had a coaching center in our house, so the environment was always very academic. And I had a lot of older brothers and sisters as well. So if they were reading books, and everybody would read in the house, so if they were reading books, even when I was much younger than them, I would want to read the same things. So there was this healthy competition in the house where everybody wanted to read the same book, even if I would be younger than them for that subject. So we had we had a very nice atmosphere in the house where everybody was into books.
Okay, so like that's really great because having someone who can always motivate you to build yourself in, especially in education, it's really good. Like since the birth of the child, when you get the right, what we call it, the right, atmosphere to study, it's really nice to have someone like that, and especially your parents who were always there to motivate you and encourage you. So, like, moving ahead, while writing this book, what I thought was, did you ever felt hesitant about putting it out to the world, and ever thought that people could might judge you because the Bhatu's tribe and all you already said about the word conversion related to that?
Yes, yes, definitely. When I started writing, I hadn't thought so much about it because I was interested in there was this blanket generalization of so many tribes, over 200 tribes in India who were all labeled as criminal tribes. The transgender community was included within that fold. So, I mean, obviously, I wanted to also understand that how can 200 different tribes be all criminal? So this is definitely sounding like a very, very big generalization. Even to me, when I was a kid, and I mean, I knew my great grandparents were also herders and hunter gatherers. So I knew that this statement is not entirely true. So there was this need to want to tell this story and also research for myself. But while I started researching, because I grew up in a household where caste was not an issue, and that also came from the fact that I was higher upper caste within the Muslim community. So that is why, because of this privilege, I didn't know so much about caste even within the Muslim community. Like in India and in the Indian subcontinent, Muslims also follow this social class oriented social and class oriented caste system.
Yes.
So even people who have converted from lower caste in Hinduism, they carry the baggage of their caste within the Muslim fold as well in Indian society. I grew up not knowing about it because of my privilege. So when I started researching on the Hindu caste system, it was, I mean, I obviously knew about it, but the depths at which it is followed and the depths at which the society operates within this caste system was sort of new for me. So it was also an eye opener. It also was a little eye opener for me to know how privileged I am. So, and then I was going to write about my ancestors who were in many ways outcasts because they don't really consider themselves as Hindus, but as people who are outside that. They're tribals. So I did consider many people would be judging my background because they would be like, oh, she's coming from a lower caste or an outcast background. Yes, I did think about it, but I don't personally, I don't think that deterred me from writing this story, but it did come to my mind. I didn't pay too much attention to it because I still wanted to tell the story. And I can now understand when people are writing books about their backgrounds, they must also be weighing and thinking.
Yes.
Because another friend of mine had told me, who is a Dalit person, that you are writing your family's truth, and lots of people are still judging you because they may not be reading the book and judging it for its literary weight, but just viewing it through the lens of caste. And lots of people within your family are not ready to come out in front of others in that way. So I thought about these things, but it didn't deter me from writing.
That's very brave of you, because writing this book has actually told people the narrative of yours, because you have lived that, your family has lived that. We don't know, we just hear the stories, but the book has, put the light on what the reality is, and has also shown that how your ancestors, and obviously how our ancestors too, came from all that difficult background to this what we are today right now. So like looking ahead, what is your next significant goal or project on your agenda?
Right now I want to just work on trying to get this book to as many people, because I from another industry largely. I mean, I'm a cinematographer, and
Yes.
so for to get this book out through the right channels to as many people as possible is what I'm working on right now, because the book just came out 2 weeks back. Yes, and I understand from how some of my other writer friends have told me that you have to work on marketing it, and it takes a little while for people to start reading as well. So while people may buy a book, they may not immediately start reading it. So I'm hoping, I mean, I have to work towards the launch of the book as well in different cities. There are interviews to be done. So right now my focus is on this land we call home. But at the same time, I'm also doing some other things. Like there's a workshop, a filmmaking workshop that I'm a mentor on, which will be in Kashmir. So there's that to be done. I'm also hoping to start shooting again. So and if a book idea comes, that as well. I've always done many things at the same time.
That's really nice, and that's really motivating. And I'll 101% I'll suggest this book to all of the people I know who are around me who are into books, because obviously it has gave me a lot of insights into things which I haven't known since now. It's been 24 years, but I haven't ever heard of Bhantu's tribe and their, life, what it was earlier and what they turned it into. So, if you could have looked through a crystal ball and known that this is going to be your life, what would have been your reaction at this point?
I would have been happy. There's a lot in my life right now, so yeah.
Yes. So, I want to wish you a very good luck for your future, and thank you so much, Miss Jafri, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. It's been a pleasure discussing this land we call home and your creative journey with us. And I'm really, really recommending it to our audience, whoever is watching us. Just go out and buy this book or order it online on Amazon or Flipkart. You will surely and definitely love